Alright everyone, YouTube is making a new change to its sort of rules, the system with which recommended videos are delivered specifically, and it's creating a new system to suppress what they call borderline content. Specifically, it won't go to the recommended lists that people see on site. Like when you're searching around for videos, you won't see that recommended anymore. Again, the road to hell paved with goofy intentions, it's not going to work. The weird side of YouTube is one of the most popular parts of YouTube and has been since day one. YouTube started out as being 99% weird side material. The early wave of shit that got popular on YouTube was, again, stuff like bum fights and Tourette's guy and people rambling about the Illuminati and Nibiru in 2012 and shit like that. Crazy prophecies and weird religious mumbo-jumbo. You know, you remember some of the early sort of celeb figures on YouTube. Some of them were like evangelicals rambling about the end times, really. Wasn't it some dude named Venom Fang X was, you know, very cringy at the time. And then you had stuff like, you know, Chris Crocker and shit like that. It's basically early YouTube. That Tourette's guy, again. Most of the stuff that went viral early on in the first, you know, half-decade of YouTube's existence really was stuff that was edgy. I mean, what do you think I was looking up on YouTube back in the day? It was people fighting and crackheads and stuff like that, and then the occasional 80s music video, of course. Toto's Africa, first song I ever actually solicited on the site. Good video for that, by the way. Excellent song. You should definitely take a listen. If you haven't heard it, I'm assuming you've listened to the radio. You probably have. But here's the thing. You now have all sorts of weird gray area categories on YouTube. Like I can remember, again, back in the day it was your video is allowed or it's not allowed. Then they rolled out restricted mode, and restricted mode basically, not same as limited state. The early restricted mode is basically you have to log in and press yes, I'm over 18 to view it. It's like this content is edgy. It's not disallowed, it's fine on the site, but it's edgy. It's suggestive content, certain types of violence, war footage and stuff like that, with restricted mode. And so it was in there. And then they developed priority status. And priority status allows the Jimmy Kimmels and CNNs to get away with doing anything, and they're immune to every form of strike. They're immune to copyright protection. They're immune to... And basically, if you don't hire a lawyer and file off a literal piece of paperwork to YouTube's HQ with regards to a situation in any of those accounts, you can't do anything about them. And they can do basically anything they want. They get favorable status under the algorithms that YouTube employs. Everyone knows that, even if YouTube initially claimed it wasn't true. Then they rolled out limited state. Limited state is basically, okay, it's allowed on site, but it's way too edgy for us, so we're suppressing it. Basically, you know, your subscribers can see it if they have the link. It's basically like an involuntary private video that nonetheless people can actually access. Now that didn't work too well. They use it very sparingly because I think what they realized is that the video gets 10 times as much play, specifically because the entire alt media jumps down YouTube's throat whenever a substantial video is put in limited state. I mean, there's a site that exists just for aggregating that shit. In fact, several. So it didn't work very well. I think they've scaled back on their intent to use it. Like, I think Computing Forever recently had one put in limited state, but it's like, how many people watched it on BitChute? Twice as many as would have watched it on YouTube. That happens anytime a video gets taken down, too. It's like, it's great. Yeah, if you're a content creator, you gotta have a backup presence, because at the very least, your fans can see that the video didn't violate TOS. Get a BitChute account. Put it on Minds. Put it on DTube. Put it on Dailymotion. Whatever the hell you want to do. Then now we have this state, and what this means is the content isn't against the rules. It's not even really edgy. Like, it's not gore or anything like that, but it's just borderline. It's just too out there for YouTube, so we're not going to let it go into the recommended feeds. Half the views that a person gets tend to come from recommended video hits. That's half of the views of a YouTube channel. It's not people searching and homepage and subscriptions. Yes, those are significant, or off-site embedding. Someone posts the link somewhere else. That can, yeah, it can go viral that way. Someone posts something on Reddit, they get 100,000 views or whatever. But the bulk of regular views that a person gets in their day-to-day content creator existence are from recommended videos. It's like, for me, I think it's like, what, 30-40% of my views come from that. Also, YouTube has this nasty proclivity, and has for years, towards not explaining these gray areas that it creates. It didn't, for limited state, like it never clearly delineated what would be put in limited state. It never clearly, and by the way, with this, because, you know, is there going to be a way to appeal? Like, is the user going to be able to see that their video is suppressed from recommended lists? just like they already suppress certain things from trending. Is a person going to be able to see that, number one? Are they going to be aware? Is it going to be silent? And number two, can they appeal it? Like, they're like, hey, you know, because here's the problem. And we've seen this with limited state. We've seen this with other things. It's like that first time I got a strike, you know, last year, which got repealed because it was, you know, illegitimate. I got a strike on my account because I was quoting the New York Times in an article in which they were talking about bigotry. And so it clearly falls under TOS, it's clearly fine, but the algorithm is automated. It didn't find it to be fine. It was one of those 13 or 14% of takedowns by this automated system that isn't legitimate. I appeal, it gets put back there, but it's like the damage is already done. Most of the views that I could have gotten are never going to be chalked up on this video because it was banned for 3 days. So it's a big problem. Is this going to be the case with this new mode, whereby people are being robbed of views, even though their videos are for the purposes of criticism? For instance, you're like, well, flat Earth is borderline content. What about if you're refuting the flat Earth? Is that going to not be recommended either, even though the explicit point is? What about a debate between someone who supports and someone who opposes such a thing, or 9/11 trutherism, or climate denial, or whatever the fuck else the lame establishment wants suppressed? By the way, number two, is it going to suppress it at all? No. We've seen suppression doesn't work. There are other sites that the content will be put on. It'll help YouTube's competitors, so I'm sure that they're happy at the moment. And by the way, who exactly made the determination that this material was problematic, and what logic did they use to determine that it was the case that it was? Well, if someone believes in a flat Earth and spews out crazy shit about it on YouTube, by the way, no, the Earth is not flat. Look at the moon and look at an eclipse sometime and you'll understand why, or a million other scientific facets. But I mean, what's the problem if someone wants to put that view on YouTube? Basically, you're creating the kids that built YouTube, the weird, edgy outcasts, are the ones that are getting kicked off the site, or their material can't be found, or it gets restricted. It's put in limited state and stuff. This is not what YouTube was for the first 10 years of its creation, essentially. In fact, 12 years. Up until about 2015, the first wave of corporatism on YouTube got defeated by YouTube itself because they saw that the users were pissed in the DMCA days. And so they fiddled around with their copyright notification and shit system, so people were notified, they could appeal, and it wasn't, you know, some of these web sheriff and these groups that automated it, they scaled back a little bit in listening to them purely and gave people manual reviews. They created partner status to give some protection to people who had established presences, they had large channels, or they were, you know, a recognizable brand or whatever. Those were good things that YouTube did. It solved the problem. My hope is that in the future they do that for the problems that they themselves now are creating with things like limited state, priority status for again, lamestream content that nobody else gets, even if they're at PewDiePie levels. And certainly this, borderline, conspiracy theory content. Who determines what constitutes borderline content? You're giving some examples. That's great. Okay, I've got a general idea of what I think you're going to put into this new category. Again, what about material that mentions these topics to refute them? What about satire of these topics? What about tongue-in-cheek references, literally joking and things of that nature? And what about stuff that's on the borderline of the borderline? Well, I don't know. What if they're an anti-vaxxer? What if some politician is like a flat earther or something? Are they going to, you know, get suppressed on your site? YouTube and these sites have opened a can of worms by allowing advertisers and other groups to screw with them, and it's really about money. What it really is that that sort of content, advertisers don't want their ads on it, so now you're suppressing the number of views, basically. That's about all. Peace out.